Hi and welcome back to this week's makeup tutorial. So I'm starting off by applying NYX Matte Not Flat Foundation in the shade 02. And I'm just applying that with a Real Techniques buffing brush. So for contour, I'm going to use the e.l.f. Cream Blush Bronzer combo, and I'm using the bronzer and a flat brush from NYX. I think this is a foundation brush, and it's really nice because it's got a really straight end to it. And when I'm contouring my cheeks, I always start from the highest point from my ear and just dragging that downwards. And then for the lighter parts, I'm using Maybelline Age Rewind Concealer and the Maybelline Fit Me. And I'm just mixing these two and using them to highlight as well as concealing my under eye circles. And then I'm just buffing this out with a Real Techniques contour brush. Then I'm moving on to buffing out the darker parts of my face, or the contour. And I always like to buff the lighter places that I've highlighted first, and then I like to buff out the darker so I don't mix the colors. Then I'm using a Morphe brush to just buff out the nose contour. So here's the finished look. Then I'm applying the blush that comes in the combo, which is a really nice cream blush in a type, it's a little bit coral or pink at the same time. Then to set the darker parts of my contour, I'm using the NYX Matte Bronzer in the shade Deep. And I'm just applying that with a fluffy brush. And then to further contour, I'm using a angled Bdellium Tools brush and the same bronzer. And then to set my blush, I'm using NYX blush in Apricot. So this adds a little bit more of color, this adds more color at the same time as it sets the cream blush that I put beneath. And I'm just taking my foundation brush to blend the harsh edges. Then I'm using Rimmel Stay Matte and Translucent, and I'm just setting the lighter parts that I highlighted. And for highlighter, I'm using e.l.f. bronzer in Golden. This bronzer is not a bronzer for me, it's more of a highlighting powder. And I'm using the lightest shade from the bronzer and applying that to the top of my cheekbones and then on the forehead as well, and on my nose and Cupid's bow. Then I'm using NYX HD Concealer I'm using that as a primer for my lids. And then I'm just setting that with the Rimmel Stay Matte powder. The NYX concealer actually reminds me of Prolong Wear from MAC, so I like to use it as a primer. Then I'm just applying the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Black Bean on the lids, and I'm just applying that on the lids because I want that part to be dark. But for my transition color, I'm using a Morphe eyeshadow called Skin Deep, and I'm just applying that with a 224 brush from MAC. Then to deepen the crease a little bit more, I'm using Caramelized, also by Morphe Brushes. And this is a really nice warm brown. And I'm applying that with a Zoeva brush. And then I'm blending with my 224 brush. Then I'm taking a Deluxe or Defined Crease brush from Zoeva. And I'm taking the color called Secretive from Morphe Brushes, which is a really nice cranberry burgundy reddish type of color. And as you can see, I'm always blending in between the applications, and then I'm just reapplying a little bit more of that jumbo eye pencil. Then I'm using the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, and I'm using that greenish reddish eyeshadow, which reminds me a lot of MAC's Club eyeshadow, but I have both actually, and I think that this is more pigmented than the MAC actually, and it's a lot cheaper. Then I'm going in again with that same reddish eyeshadow and the same Zoeva brush. This is a really good brush to get into the crease and puts the color where you want to deposit it. Then I'm applying a little bit more of Caramelized. And then a little bit more of the transition color, Skin Deep. And I'm intensifying that eyeshadow from Wet n Wild. Then I'm taking the lighter color from the palette and highlighting my inner corners. And then I'm using the Caramelized eyeshadow on the lower lash line, and then on top of that I'm applying the reddish brownish eyeshadow, and then I'm just softening that out with a blending brush. For my lips, I'm using NYX Lipliner in Soft Beige and a Revlon lip butter. I can't remember the name, but it's a nudie color. It's the only nude they've got. And by the way, I applied some falsies from Ardell, and here's the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this makeup tutorial. Be sure to subscribe and like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care.